couldn't ignore things, right?
No, I had 3 knee surgeries. Yeah. So, but the problem is I had 3 knee surgeries because I kept ignoring it. Part of the problem was...
That's a great point.
Yeah. So my parents, my mom is Chinese, and so she's very much a tiger mom, quote unquote. So for her, more was better, right? She knows that. So the problem is that my coach too thought more was better. So nobody was doing
the balance
out. And you know, that part came much later when I was like, all right, I really can't move. So, and then I have to do the research and the thought process.
Yeah.
So
tough for athletes obviously to figure out when's that transition when they have to, you know, at a more elite level. Are you increasingly internalizing having to be the one who reads it, who says, look, we really got to stop? Or are there more people that are helping you saying, look, Felicia, Iris, Bob, Jim, you've taken this too far. You really gotta, you gotta stop. We've got to stop you.
That's hard because even
because they're all thinking like, you got so much time here. We got to get ready for this competition.
Right, and then also like mentally too. If you feel like, well, one shirt I had was I practice while you sleep. So that's the mentality everyone has. So if you feel like I haven't practiced one day and then Jane practiced today, I'm going to be that much, you know. But I think that's when it really comes into play where you need to have a very focused and balanced team that can really push you forward and drive you forward by being organized. I mean, there's a lot to be said about doing a chart of periodization. Okay, we're getting ready, we're targeting this tournament. We want this many, lessons and this many training sessions, this many things. And if that doesn't happen, then how do we do it? And I don't think people realize how much you can do also doing work on sports psychology, work on mental work. I mean, that piece is always kind of left out. There's a ton of video work you can do now that we never had before that can really help you, because they say like just exercising your mind a lot of times. And you talk about too.
Watching technique
and skill training can be almost or just as effective as physically going out there and doing it. But you have to trust your team and you have to put something together and find people that can give you some advice. And really, if you want to do it as with anything, like even when you get an iPhone, right? So you get an iPhone and you read the manual. It's the same thing. There's a manual for this, and then you have to just, maybe sometimes you have to dig a little deeper.
Were you, not necessarily your own story, but did you have, or people who, because things are so more well-rounded these days, that back in the day, it was just sort of this oversimplistic rah-rah, push hard versus the understanding of the totality of you as an athlete? And again, I don't want you to incriminate, but I'm saying for do you think that went on, that it got to be sort of like push hard, you can do it, and there wasn't the sensitivity of really thinking and understanding it?
Well, the 1980s, right? So I started in 1987 and really came to light at 1990. So we weren't really using any of these techniques. There wasn't GoPro cameras. There weren't any of that. And the coaches that coached me beforehand were all Bella Caroli coaches, especially in this European sport. So there was no other mentality. And we were trying to break barriers in U.S. fencing. So there was no choice but to sacrifice yourself at the stake. So there was nothing but that, which comes with its own post consequences. But now, you can practice so much smarter now. There are
not beat yourself down.
Yeah, so they're average athletes now, not average, but like people who work a 9-to-5 job, but can be an upper level triathlete because they have access to a GoPro camera. They have access to all this technology and all these things that athletes, it's not proprietary information anymore, so you have to train smarter. That's why I said read the manual, So.
Your thing will be, for those interested in fencing, good sites, any sites that you use. And then are there commonalities that you find in people of young world that gravitate, tend to enjoy fencing?
Well, one of the things that is near and dear to our heart as physical therapists, sports physical therapy, is just this balance of injury, and obviously as an athlete you have to push yourself. There's a bit of a survival of the fittest, if you will, that has to occur for you to get to elite level. But there's also that balance of honoring your body and knowing that besides your mental and sports psychology capacities and diligent practice and understanding technique, there's a physical ability your body has to be able to perform to get to an elite level. How hard is it, and how do you get through this process? And what would you recommend for athletes in terms of understanding that they can't continue to disrespect their body with injury, but there is some level of toughness you have to keep persevering and balancing out those two things in terms of not letting injury get too far ahead of you?
I think that's a little bit easier sometimes when you're a more elite athlete because you are very, very in tune with your body. Even like if I ate a chip, I know what the difference it makes when I fence, you know? So I think that for younger athletes, it's a little bit harder to tell. And so I think in the athletes that we're really talking about are the ones that are developing. I think it's important to voice when you have an injury or an issue, and then the coach can really assess what's happening at the time. So when I say that, what I mean is that there's some implicit trust there with the coach. And there's a team effort that goes with these, with training a kid. So the coach is there. I have several coaches who watch over the kids, who know how they perform every day, to notice, are you having an injury? Let's talk about it. I do also have a sports trainer on staff, so I trust her to say, please evaluate whether or not they can actually, because there are kids who come in like the engagement. So the kids that are engaged, they are the ones you have to watch out for because they won't tell you. The kids that aren't engaged will say, this hurts. And you'll say, get on guard and fence. So I think you have to be very wary of the kids that really drive themselves. The ones that really want to get at it and go forward. You have to be very diligent about knowing what it is and trusting other people to kind of make an evaluation. So having a trainer, having a physical therapist evaluate, having the coach listen to the physical therapist and to trust the physical therapist to talk to them. When I was injured, I always had Bucky talk to the physical therapist, what can she do? What can't she do? And then responding from there. Having the coach realize, is this athlete very disappointed right now? Are they, is there a mental spiral that's going downwards? How do I lift them up? Not like, oh, just sit here with some ice. Every time someone has an issue, you need them to relax. You have to focus the athlete. Sit here, watch some video. Sit here, watch this kid. Ice, and then while you're icing, read this article.
Do something purposeful.
Do something purposeful so their mind isn't on it, so they don't just sit here and be like, all I'm doing is sitting out during practice. So it really is trust of the coach, the physical therapist, a trainer that's on the floor. Also trust that you as a parent know, like, oh, my kid really is injured because Sally doesn't usually complain.
That's an awesome point.
So you have to trust yourself as a parent to say, this doesn't feel right. Because as a parent right here, like, that really doesn't feel right. Or they can suck it up and go back on the floor. So it really is an honest conversation with yourself and with the people that surround the kid. Like I said, it's really the kids that drive themselves as the biggest issue because they're the ones that are never going to tell you, and they're the ones that if they get injured for too long and step out for too long are going to go into a depressive cycle.
Good advice. So I certainly I want to move on to your club. What kind of are there some particular sites that you recommend? There's people who want to learn how to fence or get more information about it. Can you name the top one or two or three places someone might go on the web?
Well, Rock Fencing, rocfencing.com is our website. usfencing.org is a good place, but right now it's so great because the Olympics are on, so there are times to view fencing live. So if you go on NBCOlympicSports.com, I think, just Google it too, there's a whole schedule of watching fencing live. But really, if you want to try fencing, we have twice a month intro classes, or just call the fencing club to see if this.
What's your number here?
It's 654-6047 with the 585 area code.
Awesome.
But also we're at a lot of different rec centers as well. We're starting some after-school programs at French Road and some other ones. But it's always good to start with a call and just say, my kid, or I'm interested. I have a lot of adults. I have a fitness and fencing class now that's really just like agility and fitness, and then sprinkled with a little bit of fencing is in that as well for people that just want to stay in shape but don't want to get on a treadmill.
So are there certain characteristics that you find that tend to run across ages and guys versus girls in terms of things that people who end up loving fencing tend to have certain qualities about them?
So a lot of the fencers I have are top in their class. I think that people who are really want to be mentally engaged in the strategy of fencing really get on and love it. I think people who are willing to put in the work into a skill, at first you are really clunky and it's kind of chaotic at first because someone is moving at you with a weapon and you're kind of trying to figure it out. So I think people who are also open-minded to being a little bit clumsy at first, that really does make a difference, because adults, especially if they start anything, want to be perfect right away, because apparently when we're adults we have to be perfect at everything. And there's also kids who have that same mentality, that they just want to be perfect. So I think that, I think first you have a mentality of a fencer. If you're smart, like strategy, enjoy that piece. You also enjoy being physically active, don't mind sweating, and don't mind being a little clunky at first. So I think when you try anything new, you have to be pretty open-minded. So
What are the things that you feel like first drew you, that you love about fencing the most?
sword. I got to stab other people with a weapon. With a blunted weapon. I think for me I was a kid who loved swords, and I was pretty aggressive about it. So I loved it. I loved that I could make the light go off, and I could come forward and just hit you in the chest with the foil. I really loved it. I loved the way the weapon felt. So, a lot of times a lot of boys will come in because, parents will say, well, they love to be in the backyard with a sword. But that's actually false, because kids who love to be in the backyard with swords a lot of times just like to be in the backyard with a sword. But some people who are a little bit more focused tend to like fencing, because they're really focused on the target. They like some other things about it.
Precision to it.
Precision to it. So the precise and the skill, precision it takes, and the time it takes to learn how to be a good fencer. So a lot of times, even a kid who loves Star Wars, they get kind of disenchanted because, I have to learn footwork. I've got to learn the technique. I've got to learn this. So it's a little bit tough sometimes if someone just likes to be in the backyard with swords. But I love the sword. I love the precision. I love being able to take this point and make it hit somewhere that I wanted to go.
What did you find
Controlling,
most
probably, right?
challenging about fencing? That was the hardest thing that didn't maybe match your interests or physical athleticism?
It's hard to say. I really loved all the games. I loved the kids that were in the class. I just loved everything about it. I danced my way and laughed my way through class. So I loved it so much, and I got to spend time with my sister. So I think for me, there wasn't a whole lot that I didn't like. Because I also am someone who really likes training too. I love putting in those hours, and I love training, and I love working hard. So I have this very, very intensive work ethic that I've had since I was a little kid. So for me, there wasn't a whole lot that I felt was a detractor. I was like, okay, I can work at stabbing someone a little more accurately. Okay, So for me, it was a perfect fit, and obviously, it was a perfect fit. Yeah.
A neat thing that you said about being with your sister, for people out there who are interested in fencing, is definitely think about asking your friends to come.
Yes.
Some people might be thinking, hey, I don't know if I want to come and start this new thing by myself. Ask your neighbor, your friend, a classmate, a teammate to do
Absolutely.
something in the off-season. Cool opportunity for a different sport. We are so blessed at Peak Performance to have Iris be one of our friends. And she's a hard worker. And we could sit here and talk for hours. I just love all the wisdom that you shared with us. But I'd really encourage you to check out, tell me the website again.
Rockfencing.com.
Rockfencing.com, and give Iris a call if you're interested. My wife is very interested in seeing me get poked with a sword. So I think we're going to end with a little demo.